live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
It is oh so live here on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It's Friday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. A happy one to you and yours. We're going in depth tonight on a number of topics. Our Paul Nelson will join us live here in just a moment. We've seen a number of groundwater related issues in a number of communities all over the state based on snowpack, snow melt, water levels. We'll dive into that. Lincoln Graves joining us as well, talking about Great Salt Lake levels and Lake Powell. Can't forget meteorologist Chase Thomason right around the corner. Let's get into what is making headlines tonight right here on KUTV.com. This one we've been talking about in some of our newscasts. A Salt Lake City Council member arrested on DUI charges. Amy Fowler, a City Council rep for District 7, was arrested for driving under the influence after police say she left the scene of a crash in Springville. Also making headlines tonight, the World Health Organization, or the WHO, says the COVID-19 pandemic no longer a global health emergency. This comes after the virus has killed at least 7 million people worldwide. Also making headlines, KUTV.com, funeral services will be held for a well-known Utah businessman, Wendell Burt, this weekend. Burt, best known for being one of the founders of Burt Brothers Tire and Services. Finally tonight, in our headlines, the Utah Department of Transportation says northbound Legacy Parkway will be closed from Parish Lane in Centerville to Park Lane in Farmington. That closure goes into effect tonight, so plan accordingly. It's 10 p.m. tonight through Monday at 5 a.m. As always, as we go in depth, you can get in touch with us by using the hashtag 2NewsLive. Easy to join us with that conversation. You can always find us on the socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just send us a direct message there to weigh in. Time to go in depth now. It's an unusual kind of flooding, but one that seems to pop up really out of nowhere. Geologists say it's happening a lot more this year in Utah. State workers say they're getting a lot more calls about groundwater flooding. Paul Nelson, luckily above ground for us tonight and live in Draper. Paul, what are you hearing from residents out there?
I'm above ground today, but yes, I mean, right now I'm in Draper in a section that's very close to Brown's Pond. And there are, of course, there's the pond here. There are creeks, like, for example, here that I'm standing next to. And yeah, there are waterways here, but officials and residents say those waterways really aren't the problem. What is happening is that the groundwater is so full and the groundwater pools are so close to homes. Basically, if they're between 10 and 20 feet below ground level, if the ground is saturated, then the water has really no place to go but up. And so that has been what's been happening in places like here in Draper. We also saw some homes in Park City. We heard about one in Eden that was hit so bad they were actually pumping out thousands of gallons of water per hour is what they were saying. So, but some of the people that I was talking to in Draper here say that they had to pump out about 1,200 gallons worth of water per day. So just a lot of water, and it isn't because of storm runoff or overflowing creeks. It's just because it's bubbling up from the ground.
Paul, we just saw some of the video that we've been showing you on our screen, but I wanted to ask you, what was it like to go in some of those homes? What did you see? What was your takeaway?
Well, one that I saw in Draper was, you could see that his basement was just really just ripped apart. I mean, matter of fact, in some of the video, you might have shown it now, that they actually had carpeting. They had to rip all that out. They had to get rid of the sheetrock. They had, the molding on the bottom. All that had to be torn up. He predicts it could be around $30,000 to $35,000 worth of damage that was done just in 2 floods that happened just this year because of the groundwater. Now, the Utah Geological Survey, they are trying to keep track of these. So if you have had any kind of problem with this kind of groundwater flooding, they want you to fill out a report on their website. And if you have questions about the soil that you live on, because not a lot of people know about the groundwater underneath them, if you have any kind of questions, just look up the UGS website, and they do have maps to show where some of these problem areas might be.
Some good advice for people. Paul Nelson live for us in Draper tonight. As always, Paul, we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes on 2 News Live. If you haven't been to the Great Salt Lake recently, you might be surprised at how things have changed. There are still big concerns about water levels, but there are big improvements after our record winter. Lincoln Graves live for us at Great Salt Lake State Park. Lincoln, what are some of the differences you've noticed while you've been out there?
Yeah, Brian, here at the Great Salt Lake, the differences are kind of night and day. The last time I was out here at the marina was in September of last year, And in the marina, there was zero water. It was all mud. All of the boats had been taken out. So it was really striking to come here at the end of last summer and see that marina completely empty, not of only boats, but of water. So coming back here today, the marina itself, once again full of water. There are a few boats in there as well. More and more people are putting their boats in, even sailboats. And sailboats, they have a really deep keel. They sit lower in the water. Those were the first ones to come out. So right now, at least, there's enough water for several of those boats to be put back in the water. And I met some people today who are doing that. They're pretty excited that they're able to do that for the first time in about 3 years, Brian.
Well, Lincoln, I think you probably have the most beautiful selfie position right now I've ever seen. So I think we probably found your new profile picture. I don't want to take away from the topic, but just a beautiful backdrop behind you. So when we look at the lake and where things are right now, if you look around, can you still see a lot of the shoreline there? Is there still an obvious amount of room for this water just fill up around you?
Yeah, there really is. I know we're talking about a lot of good news. The water has come up 4 feet since its low point last November, but there's still a lot to go. I'm going to flip the camera around for you so you can see. That's the platform right in front of me, the viewing platform, but you can see behind it all of that empty lake bed right there. So the shore, it's still pretty far back from where we would like to see it. There's a lot of room for this lake to grow. We certainly want to see more water coming in. So 4 feet up since its low point last November. It could get as high as 3 feet more because of spring runoff. So that would certainly help some more. But again, we have a long way to go before we really get this to where we want to see it, Brian.
Well, Lincoln, you've been obviously at Great Salt Lake today, but let's talk about Lake Powell. You've been doing some research on the water levels there. What are some of the differences and things that you've taken away when looking at Lake Powell right now compared to years past at this point?
You know, Lake Powell's a little bit different in a couple of ways. One, we really haven't seen the water go up there yet. It's going to, but it takes a lot longer for spring runoff to affect Lake Powell. So we haven't seen it happen there yet like we've seen it here in the Great Salt Lake. Now, when we finally start to see water levels go up at Lake Powell, it is going to be dramatic. They're talking about 50 to 90 feet in elevation gain of the water once spring runoff is fully finished. So that is a sizable amount. Now that still leaves Lake Powell very short of its full capacity, but it's going to make a big difference in terms of boating access down there. Some places will be open that haven't been open in several years. So it's going to make a big difference. People are going to notice it once they go down there. Some even predict it could get up into the 100-foot range. So it's going to take a while to see that, but that's what they say is going to happen. We're just not seeing it quite yet, Brian.
Lincoln Graves live for us tonight with just the most picturesque, most beautiful looking selfie I think I've seen in quite some time. Water looks great from there. So do you, Lincoln. We appreciate it. Hey, I think this motivates me now to find somebody with a houseboat because I would love to
for Lake Powell.
For Lake Powell.
Sailboat though for the Great Salt Lake.
Sailboat
That's a great sailing lake. So we're seeing some photos and some videos on social media of folks thinking about maybe taking their sailboat out to the Great Salt Lake. Love to see that because again, as he mentioned, in November there was no marina.
So I would love to say I haven't been out there, but 2 weeks ago, I was on the Great Salt Lake for the first time.
Okay.
We went out there on a very brief boat ride. You saw it in our piece that aired a couple nights ago here on 2 News at 10 o'clock. Just beautiful right now. Mm-hmm. Interesting, when you talk to the boat operators out there, they can't really tell too much about the water levels because out there it all looks very similar.
Yeah, it looks the same.
Unless they hit ground, right? With the rotor, with the
again,
the
3 or 4 feet,
mm-hmm.
You're not going to notice a dramatic change. But again, if we can climb another 3 or 4 feet, I think that whole 7, 8 feet from November, that'll be the big change that people will notice.
It's just encouraging, and obviously a lot of the conversation has been about how do they fill Lake Powell, and it sounds like that is a very large ask, right, and a very large task. It sounds like they're going to make some headway. Obviously not to anywhere near where levels were.
70, 90 feet. That's going to be
impressive.
Very impressive. But again, that's a lot of that is coming from Colorado, high elevation snowpack. It takes a long time for that snow to really melt. So we'll really see those impacts later this summer. It'll be very interesting to see that water rise at Lake Powell.
It's nice to see a little bit behind you here too, of course.
There you go. We have the Great Salt Lake around here.
Yep. Not bad.
Okay.
Thank you, Chase. You know, if we were to take a quick live look at Little Cottonwood Canyon here, I want to highlight that this is the area that we were talking about early in the week where there was a massive mudslide that came through. Earlier today, there was a much smaller slide in the area. It's why you see some of the flashing lights in the corner there. It's why you see the construction vehicle there as well. There was a slide that actually closed a portion of the roadway, and crews have been in this area cleaning it up. So if you are going to be driving in this canyon, the other canyon nearby, or the other canyons near it, any of these here in the state of Utah, you've got to be on the lookout for what could be coming your way.
And we're going to see more of these slides, unfortunately. I mean, you just got to think about how saturated that soil is, and we're still melting so much snow up high. And just because of our geography and how steep these canyons are, we're going to see more mudslides and landslides over the next several weeks.
Traffic moving through just fine right now, but as always, if you're going to head up either Big or Little Cottonwood or really any of these canyons here in the state to go recreate or go for that leisurely drive, just be aware that you might need a plan.
Stay alert. I mean, if you just stay alert, pay attention to where you're driving. If you see something moving ahead, either go or stop.
Yeah, most likely stop unless you know, if you don't want to end up on the other side of that thing when it closes the road. So we want to hear from you at home. How should Little Cottonwood Canyon operate with the threat of landslides through this area? So right now, majority of you are saying just monitor this, and that is the approach for the most part. I know
people
it says
still
people
work up there, people live up there, so you can't just shut down the road. But yeah, if you can monitor it, that's probably the best bet.
And it sounds like over the last few days they had spotters in certain areas for shifts, and then really at night it was your own risk. There's already so much we've been asking these UDOT employees to do this winter.
I know. They're tired.
And they are tired. They've been worked, and they're still being worked. So scan the QR code there to weigh in if you'd like to check in on this poll. But right now, most of you just saying, hey, monitor this area. Chase, you've been here with us talking about some of these things. What are you looking at in your forecast for the weekend?
So it's cooler. So that's going to slow that snow melt, which is good, which will lower the flood risk. However, we're going to have some rain. And that rain on saturated soil could create a few more issues, especially, I think, north of Salt Lake, the northern end of the Wasatch Front, some of those mountain valley communities that are already just so wet. We'll be watching that. Hopefully the rain doesn't stay too heavy and it stays nice and light and we don't see any more issues, but there's going to be a chance, I think, maybe by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. So let's get to that forecast. You probably can feel that cooler weather out there. We've definitely dropped. Remember the 80s, no more 80s now. Lots of 50s and 60s across the state, and even colder across portions of central Utah, where we've had a little bit of rain and thicker cloud cover. 40s from Manti to Delta to Milford, Ely, and Elko, also in the 40s right now. So here's your weekend forecast. Temperatures will be in the low to mid 60s, a few degrees below normal. I mean, not a terrible weekend, but keep your eyes to the sky. Tomorrow afternoon through Sunday morning, that's probably our best chance for a little bit more rainfall here along the Wasatch Front. We have a big dip in the jet stream, and because of that dip, that colder air has moved in, and there's actually several little disturbances within this huge storm, and each one is helping produce these showers and thunderstorms, and that will keep things unsettled through the weekend and into maybe early next week. And there's another storm behind that one, so we'll have some rain at times here in northern Utah. Now, southern Utah, you're going to be dry, I think, later this weekend, but we still have some lingering showers and storms and even some mountain snow above 8,000 feet impacting Bryan Head. But if you are making that drive from Salt Lake to St. George, there will be pockets of rain, mainly light rain through central Utah, Cove Fort, Beaver, even down to Cedar City. Look at the light rain towards the southern end of the Wasatch Front. This is lifting north, so any Cinco de Mayo plans, grab your umbrella just in case. Nothing too heavy, but light rain in Utah County and now pushing into Salt Lake County. The northern end of the Wasatch Front is dry, but if this holds together, you got some rain coming your way in the next couple hours, and you'll see this on Future Track at 10 o'clock. Notice Provo south dry, but north of Salt Lake we have a little bit of rain and some mountain snow and maybe a couple lingering showers across far northern Utah tomorrow morning, and then we'll see more of these scattered showers. Few thunderstorms possible in northern and central Utah. Again, we're hoping that the rain stays light, but there is a chance for a heavier shower. If that happens, that again could create some flooding problems. Sunday morning, best chance for rain across far northern Utah. That will linger for the midday hours, and then later in the afternoon, the rain shifts into southwestern Wyoming. And those temperatures staying on the cool side, but down south, you'll be in the 70s. Maybe you're down in St. George to do a little golfing. A little gusty tomorrow afternoon, so you'll be dealing with that. We'll be in the 80s, though, in St. George Monday and Tuesday, cooling back into the 70s Wednesday, and then the 80s are back Thursday, Friday, overnight lows in the 50s. So Salt Lake, we're at 46 for tonight. Staying in the low 60s this weekend, a little bit of rain. A few more isolated storms are possible on Monday, but will be a few degrees warmer, near 70, 72 on Tuesday, dry. And then we have another storm for northern Utah, more scattered storms Wednesday, Thursday. Temperatures will be in the 60s. And then after that, Brian, I think we're going to be really warming up by later in the weekend and into the following week. So 60s and 70s for the next 7 days.
So that's when the concern could set in for some of the snow melt.
Yes, it does look like a big warm up, but we'll see. That's still ways out. That could definitely change. So definitely nice and cool. We're watching the rain. That could cause some flooding issues, but when it comes to rapid snow melt, maybe in 7 to 10 days after that forecast.
You mentioned Cinco de Mayo. It is May 5th. This is a day where we like to tell you to go celebrate, go have a good time. Every year on May 5th, Americans celebrate the Mexican American heritage and pride. And this is a time where a lot of people focus on food and drink.
That's right. The United States Congress issued the proclamation, though, in 2005, calling on Americans to observe Cinco de Mayo. Most people do so, of course, enjoying Mexican-themed meal, drinks, tacos, margaritas, all the good stuff.
So I can tell you, I try to eat that stuff all the time anyway. I don't need Cinco de Mayo to
you
have
tell me, Brian, what is better than a taco?
I don't.
If you think about it, it's basically the best version of a sandwich.
Yeah, not much, especially when it's fresh and it's got your choice of the best possible meat, a little cilantro, a little onion, throw some good salsa in there.
You like it spicy?
I do like spicy, yes,
bit of
for
spice.
sure. So, yeah, I don't need an excuse of a certain day to eat a taco.
And
I want that to
I'm
be
going to call out your wife a little bit. She's a great cook.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure she makes a mean taco.
You're pretty sure that I'm going to run home
because you're like, I got 5 minutes left and I'm eating.
I think I will be going for a taco and maybe even a marg if we're lucky here later tonight.
I'm
Gotta take care of the
DoorDashing
kid
your
first,
house.
though.
Yep.
I know. Well, you're coming over.
Okay.
So, drinks at Mill Creek Commons tonight. There's local food. There's dancing. There's a bunch of things. So there's local events tonight if you're interested.
That'd be fun.
In heading out.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
There you go. You were looking for a
There you
place
go.
to go.
However, might be a little cold, a little wet.
Yeah, and take it easy. Plan the good driver. That sort of thing.
That's right,
Thanks
be
for
safe.
watching 2 News Live. Chase Thomas and Brian Schnee. Thanks to everybody else who joined us. Lincoln Graves, Paul Nelson, everyone behind the scenes as well for making us do our thing and do it well and have it look good. We appreciate you. We're back Monday at 5:30. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the pockets of sunshine that may come through there, and get outside. Temperature should be all right.
Not too bad.
Yeah, we'll take it.